Normal and experience. These are two of the most overrated words, amongst the most overrated words that you would have heard of in your entire lifetime till this moment in time. And these next few minutes, I'm going to change your life. I'm going to change your perspective. Watch it till the end. And what seems normal and what seems coming from experience won't seem like it anymore. Let's start from your birth. So you're born into this world, and at that moment, while you're born, you're pure consciousness. And the very first thing that happens as soon as you're born, although the process has started even before you're born, basically, is that you're given a name, followed by a religion. And from there on starts what we can call the programming of what is normal. Now, this normal around the world is going to vary according to culture and according to religion, depending upon where you're born, but largely there would be one global version of this normal which you have to abide by to go from A to Z, which technically means from birth to death. And the programming is first done by your parents who have been through the same cycle, programmed by their parents, who were programmed by their parents, going on for a long, long time. And this normal keeps getting passed on. So then you develop a little bit of perception, you move into school, and as soon as you get into school, the programming gets doubled up because now it's taken over by the school, which is ultimately controlled by the government. And now you have teachers in the school that are passing on their programming to you through the process that they've been, which was again part of the same cycle. And now they're there programming that onto you, telling you what you should be doing and what you should not be doing, and basically programming you into a robotic behavior whereby the norms of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable are clearly defined. And if you're basically going outside of those norms, not in a negative way, but just being yourself, you're basically immediately brought back onto the track. Now, this can be in the form of negative consequences, and sometimes it's just other people laughing at you because you're following a path that is different from the sheep that are going in a herd. So the sheepdogs basically come in and start barking at you to keep you in the line, and hence the programming goes on. Do you remember in your school you had moments where you were like, what am I studying over here? Look at this algebra, look at this trigonometry, all these circle theorems and geometry laws. Where and to what extent and how frequently am I really going to be using these in my daily life once I get out of this mind programming institution and followed by university, same part, but at another level? What amount of this am I going to actually be using? But the problem is, you only thought till that point. Had you gone deeper, you would have realized that whichever subject you're literally picking up, vast majority of the content is keeping you in the left side of the brain, logical thinking, linear thinking, not the right side, the creative side of your brain, where you can explore reality, where you can explore what you really are, and that ultimately could contribute to your personal and spiritual and financial growth. But you're kept in line, always bombarded with assignments, always bombarded with tests and homeworks. Go to school in the morning when probably the owner of the school hasn't even woken up, and you're sitting there like sheep and following orders and basically going period after period, learning things which are keeping you on the left side of your brain, suppressing your creative ability. And then basically you come home, and then there's loads of homework to do, and basically your parents who have a job to do, they come back home and you are busy with your work. They are probably watching TV and basically carrying on with that programming. And when you are free, you're basically attached to the social media or also watching TV. And again, the programming is being taken up by these devices. And then once you go into the professional life, you've got these bosses. Oh, I've got 40 years of experience, I've been doing this thing for 40 years. And this guy with 30 or 40 or 50 years of experience thinks that this is all that was needed to get to a point of mastery. ignoring the fact that what they're calling experience is simply a recycling of that same brainwashing, same programming that has been passed down generation after generation and is keeping you locked in into tiny frequency bands. And these frequency bands are occupied by the intellectuals who cannot literally entertain a thought that tries to basically make them think outside of that box. Like Einstein, for example, did say that imagination is more important than knowledge. No, law A says this, so I gotta do it this way. Can't explore other possibilities. Just exactly like 100 years back from now, they couldn't even imagine the number of galaxies which NASA says are present today, just because of that advancement of science transforming that normal to some extent, although the large scale normal across the centuries and decades kind of remains the same. Otherwise, the society around you wouldn't have been filled with so much organized evil. Like, look into any institution. You blame politicians all your life. They are liars. They don't fulfill their promises. Yet the same politicians, when they bring up another agenda, you're believing them. And if you look at the very institutions that you depend upon, could be in any industry, could be in healthcare, for example. Look at where the policies are being played out from, the idea of the mass normal. And just do this one thing. Don't go deep into the research. Just do this one thing. Look at who's funding these institutes. Just track the cash flow, and you will realize that where the game is being played from. And then ask yourself, and then do the research. Are these people or these organizations who are funding these other organizations which are defining your normal, are these benevolent? Are these meant for the good of humanity? If so, then why is there so much evil in every aspect? Look at politics, look at the legal system, look at any aspect, you'll find the same repeating themes of inversion and corruption. Why is that then the case? So, this brings me to the point that what you call as normal is simply a program into which you are logically and systematically being kept. Because once you see out of that program and you realize, going back to the same point where you were born, when you were born, you were still there, even though no name was given to you, no religion was given to you, you were still there. Once you realize that you were that pure consciousness, which is all powerful, which has the will to choose their life path and to define their experiences, then basically for the sheepdog to keep you in line becomes difficult. And then the sheep start disobeying, and the power structure starts to dismantle. That is the problem. So, first of all, you have to keep in mind that what you have been through, I'm not saying that don't go through the mainstream education system. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that if that, as part of the structure of the society, is kind of necessary, okay, do it. I'm not saying don't do it, ignoring the fact that many of the billionaires and millionaires are simply dropouts or have never gone to college. What I'm saying is that this normal and this idea of I have 30 or 40 years of experience being the ultimate I know everything, which is absolute stupidity. Socrates, ancient Greek philosopher, is attributed as saying that the biggest form of, you can say along these lines, I'm not repeating the exact words, but the message is along these lines, that the biggest form of stupidity is knowing that we know everything, and the biggest form of intelligence is knowing that we know nothing, or how little we know. This is the message of what he said, that if we think that we know everything, that is stupidity. And the wisdom lies in the fact that we accept the fact that at any moment in time, what we know is very little. And that process of extracting knowledge should never stop. In fact, if you look at to the meaning of the word education, it means to draw out. And in its real sense, it would mean when you truly have drawn out that spirit inside of you to have evolved into a spiritually evolved consciousness that is realizing its true self and not really being locked into this box and this programmed way of thinking. You would realize that things are not the way that they should be. You complain of things not being right around you or in your life. For example, graduates not being able to find jobs. They complain about that, but they don't think about why is this so? And why is it so organized around the world? The same kind of consequences and results almost everywhere in its basic theme. Why is that so? The problem is that we rely too much on these mainstream tools of telling us what is good for us. And once you give that power away, the problem begins. What you need to realize is that 30, 40, 50 years or an entire lifetime of experience is overrated. Number one, because of the fact that by the time you get to that level of experience, notable exceptions are there. I'm not talking about them, but I'm talking about the majority. A person who is 70 years old who says that, okay, I have 40 years of experience or 50 years of experience, let's say, into anything. Okay, you have basically learned a lot, but what you have learned has been learned after spending all these years where you are already half into the grave. And if you're some place like Pakistan, you're probably already about to die or maybe are dead by then. The problem is that you don't have the time that you once had when you were 25 or 30 or 35. The time is gone. Your life is now an experience for somebody else to learn from. Your time is gone. There are two problems that we all go through. Number one, we censor information before we entertain it because we have our belief systems in place, our religion, our cultural values. We don't entertain information at the point where we should be open-ended, open-minded. We should leave our labels and prejudices aside. Like I said, when you were born, you were pure consciousness before all the labeling came in. I'm not saying if good or bad. I'm just saying leave it aside. You're something much bigger than that. And you entertain these other thoughts. You look at them from a neutral point of view. And then you decide to what extent what you're being programmed with is right or wrong. But we never do that. Again, we subconsciously just immediately reject that because that idea is against our programmed normal, which is nothing more than sheeple and sheep herd behavior. So what you need to realize is that the information that we can acquire before we make our judgments is crucial. We should go through that. And a lot of this information is not found in mainstream education books. You have to read outside. In fact, if you look at all the millionaires, all the billionaires, they will have one thing in common. Even if they are dropouts, they are readers. They read. Because once you look into these textbooks, which are outside of the mainstream, you are actually learning from people who were successful in the field or in the area for which they have written that book, whether it's about personal finance, starting a business, scaling a business, advertising, and so on. And when you learn from their experience, you're learning from those years of experience through which they have gathered that knowledge, including a lot of failures, so that you can benefit from that experience before committing those mistakes at the point of execution. If you want to do something by the age of 30, you don't want to be 60 and have 30 years of experience and basically end up with regrets that, okay, now I have that experience, but I don't have the time to execute what I could have at 30, which would have been relevant at that time, for example. So you have to entertain ideas, be open to them, look at the merits, look at the evidence, then make a decision. Never accept what is thrown at you and what is basically told to you. Never acquiesce to that without questioning and without looking deeper into it as to where it is coming from. The other idea is that experience of 30, 40, 50 years is a very minute thing, like I've just explained. You need hundreds of years of experience to make sure that you make the most out of your life. And the way you get that is by reading the lives of those and the messages of those and the work of those who are being the best at what they basically are then promoting as a message or are trying to teach to others through their books, through the basically work that they have done, so that you can get benefit of those hundreds of thousands of years. The more you read, the more of this experience you are basically combining with this one mind, and that is going to enhance your life to a lot higher level, allowing you to avoid these same mistakes before the point of execution, so that you don't make those mistakes and you benefit from them. That's real experience, not the sugar coated one that failures literally tell you in their daily life. This is the reason why in a traditional school classroom, a teacher with 20 or 30 years of experience is very likely to tell you that money is evil. They've come to that conclusion because they've given up on that. I will prefer to be a rich man over a poor man on any given day. You should never aim to be a poor man. Be the richest man in the room if possible. That should be your goal. Why? Because there is absolutely no harm in being a rich man and going after other goals than being a poor man and saying that money is not everything. Only poor people with a poor mindset say that. Always stay away from such people who tell you this. And keep in mind one more thing, which is that if you're getting advice from somebody, like if I'm giving you advice over here, look at the perspective. I'm trying to give advice to people who are younger than me, people who are in their teenage, in their 20s, or are just about to touch 30, because I'm just about to touch 30 as well, so that they can do things in a better way over the years that they have left, and make most of it without repeating the mistakes which, for example, I would have committed. The point is to make the pathway easier. And my advice, my message, particularly this one, is for everybody who is in their 20s or is in their teenage, or whoever is listening to that below the age of 30, for example. It's really for you. Or even if you are in your 30s, early 30s, it's still relevant. The point is to not buy the bullshit of people who claim to be authority figures with their agenda being played by somebody else, funded by somebody else, who are literally just front men helping play it out without questioning their motives and without questioning their connections and backgrounds and without doing an independent research and insight into why are things the way they are. Don't just acquiesce like without that, without question. And that includes everything. So hopefully you understand that both the idea of normal and the idea of I have 30 or 40 years of experience is overrated. Notable exceptions exist. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about those who are simply a byproduct of the same systematic programming and brainwash and are passing it on onto others. And the only one thing that you can do after listening to this message, wherever you are in your life right now, is to make it a habit to read the work of successful people, people who have done good in their respective fields outside of mainstream education, while you have the chance to do that. And it will make you grow to much higher levels than you would have anticipated, multiplying the quality of experience you out of your life would draw out and the level of success that you can get. And always remember that only those people hate money or hate success who have given up on it. Whether you like this video or don't like this video, for example, is totally your choice, and nobody but yourself is going to be impacted by that. If you like this video, if you like this message, if you have positive emotions inside of you by listening to my message, good thing. You will get rewarded for that positivity with by some other means or in some other ways in your life. If you feel hateful, if you're not liking this, I don't care about that. I literally don't care about that. But what you're doing to yourself is that negative emotion that you're carrying in your mind is gonna play out as some event in your life, and you're then gonna blame it on something external to you. Many people blame it on God. That probably my destiny is like that. And these are the kind of people who are always having problem after problem in their life. They never watch what's going on inside of them, and they're always hating on others rather than learning. So be with an open mind. Never censor information before you have received it. Receive ideas and information by keeping your labels outside. Once you have taken the ideas in, bring your labels back if you want, because that will give you a better perspective of which labels you want to resonate with and which ones you want to drop or change. And at the same time, learn from the experience of other people before you coming to that experience, because only stupid people think that one lifetime of experience teaches them everything. Don't be stupid and don't be a sheep.